Welcome to Toast in the Classics, a podcast where we take something that people call classic and we drink something inspired by the classic. My name is Dave McArthur. I've got guest host that's been here a lot of times.
Thanks for having me back, Bill Hodges.
Welcome, Bill. Good to see you again. Bill is my friend, lives in California, and we sort of keep up by doing this podcast a lot. It is a nice side benefit of doing the show that I get to talk to friends that don't live nearby. Welcome again, Bill. What are we doing this week?
The 1974 film, The Towering Inferno.
That is correct. And that adds to our suite of trying to cover every single piece of cultural property from the year 1974, because we have done a lot of the biggest movies. This right here is the biggest box office hit of 1974. So we have not covered that before. And I don't know off the top of my head, it might have been Godfather 2 that won the Academy Award in 74. That's not something that we've done. I probably wouldn't say a lot of nice. I don't love that one as much as everybody else in the world does. Not that it's bad, but it's not one of my favorite films. Really love the first one, and I love the De Niro parts of 2, but I just don't really like all the Al Pacino. I mean, honestly, I've soured on Al Pacino quite a bit over the years. So this is a big blockbuster movie. This is like, if you were going to imagine it as somebody who lives now, I think if you pictured what Titanic was like, this is a very similar production. It's huge. It's got big stars, although I guess Titanic actually has not quite the same caliber of stars in it. Leonardo DiCaprio was big, but I would say Titanic made Kate Winslet, and then otherwise it's like Billy Zane and a bunch of character actors. Bill Paxton has a small part, but otherwise it's This one's got some Toast in the Classics alumni. We got William Holden back together with Faye Dunaway, or actually before Network, William Holden and Faye Dunaway were together in this one. So we got some people that we've talked about before.
Yeah, and the two of them, along with, we've got Steve McQueen and Paul Newman, kind of splitting it up. Have you done anything else with Steve McQueen?
That is a great question, and I was kind of thinking it through, and I think I've been intending to watch Bullet. Haven't done it. We haven't done Magnificent Seven, which is probably one of his best vehicles. I always loved that movie when I was a kid. That was one of my dad's favorites. I watched that a bunch of times. I don't even know if we've done a Paul Newman off the top of my head. I'm trying to think. These are two really big actors from the 60s and 70s. And
they really are.
I don't know if we've covered anything that has either of them in it. It seems strange to me. Obviously, we've done Faye Dunaway before, but only in Network. We haven't done Bonnie and Clyde. We haven't done Mommy Dearest. Just right now, I want to get out of the way. Faye Dunaway is wasted in this film. She is a terrific actress. Like, she's great. She's awesome in every scene she's in, but she's just got maybe 10 minutes of screen time. She's just not an important character.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would cast somebody like Faye Dunaway in such a small part. She's very similar to what she's like in Network. She's sort of this hardcore career woman. I think Paul Newman is the one that she's with. They're the romance that kind of makes it through the film. And I have to say, I was surprised about the way that some of these people who survived and people didn't, the way it went in this movie.
Right. Like Robert Wagner.
Robert Wagner gets it for no reason. I don't even know why. He's good. I like him. I think his career was harmed by the whole Natalie Wood situation. And also just he was kind of a TV guy after a certain point. I don't know when Natalie Wood died, but it was not too long after this, maybe in the early 80s. But that sort of cast a cloud over his whole career. But there's just people all through this. I mean, Dabney Coleman shows up at one point. And I was definitely thinking when I saw him, I was like, was Dabney Coleman, he's one of those people, was he ever young? Was he just always old looking his entire life? Because this is way before some of the stuff that I think of Dabney Coleman as being in, like, he's in War Games. He's in. Did you ever see Cloak and Dagger?
Yeah, that was a great movie.
I love that movie when I was a kid. I don't want to watch it again, though. I'm pretty sure that movie sucks.
No.
Like, I'm pretty sure that. And that hasn't had like a resurgence the way some of the 80s films have. So I think maybe we're just going to leave that one alone and not watch it again. Also,
I think that's fine.
Which reminds me, did you ever see Daryl?
I remember that one.
I loved that movie when I used to sign my papers in third grade, Daryl, because I liked that movie so much. But I'm sure that one does not hold up to scrutiny. Like, I'm pretty. If you
I mean, that was up there with like Flight of the Navigator, right?
Flight of the Navigator or Never-Ending Story or something like that. There were these movies that meant a lot to me as a kid, but I'm fairly sure are not really high quality films.
Unless you have a racing snail.
I really like that racing snail, or the bat, like the flying bat that the one dude goes on. Anyway, we're talking about a completely different movie. We should talk about the Towering Inferno. We haven't even gotten through the whole cast. I mean, there's just a ton of people, but yeah,
O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson is in it. I mean, that's when you see O.J. Simpson in this movie. It's before Naked Gun. Naked Gun, I think he's already like a little bit ironically placed in the movie. But in 1974, O.J. Simpson was like one of the most beloved Americans. Like just absolutely could do no wrong. He's like Will Smith was in about 1995.
Right.
just someone that everyone loved. I don't think we knew that version of OJ, right? He was kind of already sort of in the past by the time we were growing up. When you see how obsessed everyone was with the OJ Simpson trial and the Bronco and everything, and you see this guy and you look at his football career, you're like, okay, that's why everybody was obsessed with that. Like it kind of didn't hit that hard for me. But to have somebody like this fall that hard is pretty dramatic, and you can see why people would be captivated by that story.
Similar with Bill Cosby, right? And
Very similar, except the only difference is that neither Bill Cosby nor Michael Jackson had like the one dramatic event that brought down their entire career. You know, it was just kind of, you could see Bill Cosby's career fizzling out and him getting into trouble for like 20 years. I mean, it was going badly. He was already being criticized for his thoughts on civil rights and stuff like that and Black America before the whole him being like a rapist thing happened. So this was a dramatic fall from grace. I don't know if I can think of anything like that. Maybe Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. That's pretty dramatic. But then again, that's not the same thing as murdering your wife. That's just not in the same ballpark. But it was a dramatic event. Oh, we didn't mention Fred Astaire. He really jumped out at me. I was like, oh, Fred Astaire. Oh, I don't really know if I obviously know who he is. He's one of the biggest figures in American pop culture in the 20th century, but I don't really know much about Fred Astaire. He was born in
I know the name.
1899. Yeah, I know the
Yeah.
name. Exactly. I know he was a great
Yeah.
dancer back in the day. He was in films, but the films are too old for me to have seen them. I think most of his biggest ones are in the 30s and 40s. And he's obviously still around for a long time after that. But he's 75 years old in this movie. He was born in 1899. So this is somebody who was around. This is
That's
like
well.
Dick Van Dyke showing up in something today. He's a
Right.
beloved American figure. He brings We'll talk about what happens to his character because that really was one of the things where I was like, really? That's what happened? That's what they did with this character?
He was nominated at least for an award for this
He
film for me.
was. He
Yeah.
was.
I just thought it was interesting because the character, it was this guy who was very like shady, trying to be basically a con man who was going to try to get this older woman to give him a bunch of money. And it never like really went anywhere, and she totally deflated his whole
It's a
plot.
crappy side plot. He doesn't sell it very well. He doesn't seem like the kind of person that would do that to people. And then the whole thing is just diffused automatically. The woman just decides she
Right.
doesn't care. I'm like, this is why is this happening? I mean,
That's
we're,
what I'm
we're getting
saying.
we're getting
That's what I
Fred
mean.
Astaire into this film, and somebody wrote a little subplot for him. And I do like the kind of romance with him. That part of it, I kind of was sympathetic to, but it's not a great part of the film. And somebody got out of an Oscar nod that was given to Fred Astaire because he hadn't gotten one when he was actually doing things that were worth it. I don't like it when they do that. They really screwed over Demi Moore for the
Mm,
girl from Honora,
mm.
and I was like, Honora was fine, but that she didn't deserve a Best Actress over Demi Moore. But anyway, so this is the basic plot of this is pretty simple, right? We got a situation where it's very much like the Titanic, right?
Hmm.
Hubris leads to this construction of this great big thing, and the safety features are not followed, and a whole bunch of people end up trapped. And they're glitzy, wealthy people that are in danger, which people love that. For some reason, that's just something that compels people. I don't know whether they're sympathetic to the rich
Oh,
people or not. Why do people like a disaster story that involves really wealthy people? Is
yeah.
it because they hate those? I don't think it's because they hate the wealthy people and they want to see them die. I think
I
that's
would hope not.
I mean, well, but I mean, there was a sentiment like that when those people died in the submarine last year or the year
Mm,
before, whatever. There were definitely people talking about like, they're billionaires, kill them. But it's like, I don't think that's what I think. It's almost like because wealthy people are like celebrities or something, and it's you could almost know who they are. They're almost famous because of their wealth. And so seeing things happen to famous people, I don't know, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it humanizes them or something. I don't really know why people are more, I guess because it's like it's the same story of hubris, right? It's like you have all this money and yet all of a sudden you're reduced to like a human being that has to survive. Maybe that's part of the
maybe.
story.
I think in media, oftentimes placing a lot of emphasis and importance on people who are publicly well known,
Hmm.
whether it's because they're an athlete or whether it's because they are uber wealthy.
Or any
And
number of reasons that make you a celebrity, right? Like lots of different things. I don't know. I'm not one of these eat the rich people. I don't have any animosity
yeah,
towards people that have lots of money. But at the same time, I don't care about them any more than I care about any. I'm not interested in people who have money. They're just people who have money. But I'm kind of neutral on that issue, I guess I would say. So I'm not interested in what Kim Kardashian is doing, let's just say. I would never watch a show like that. I do not care because she has money, I don't suddenly care about what she's up to. I don't want her to be set on fire in a building because she has money. I don't really have that feeling either. So
No, I mean, even though they're wealthy, I still think that we should humanize them.
yeah, well, they're still humans, right? Yeah,
They're still
exactly. So
humans.
speaking of people who are creeps, though, Richard Chamberlain was great in this as the villain. I think he's at least sort of a villain. And
Hmm.
I thought he was really good. He's so smarmy looking. They tried to make him the second Indiana Jones. Did you ever see those movies? Alan Quartermain,
No,
King Solomon's
not.
Mines, and I think they even made a second one. It's pretty low budget. It's not very well done. So there's the idea of the wealthy people in danger, which is very similar to a lot of other situations. But there's also the slow ticking disaster that's kind of compelling because you watch it. It's kind of like when you watch Walking Dead. A lot of it is like, oh, what would I do? Right? Like, how would I get out of this? Could I survive? And I think when you're watching Titanic and they've got like 2 hours and nobody really realizes what's going on at first, it's sort of a slow disaster build. And then you have all this time to try to figure, oh, how could I survive that situation? I think that's part of it. That's part of what people are interested in when they watch a movie like this, I
Did
think.
you find this believable? Like, did you find the scenario where they're up in this tower and they're like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to shoot a big repelling device across from a helicopter. The first
Yeah.
helicopter went like crashed in a fiery explosion.
Yeah. Why did it
And
crash? What happened? Just the wind? I
I
actually was
think
wondering
I
that.
guess it was the wind. You
It
know,
wasn't the
they
fault. There's like the one lady who bolts towards the helicopter and then the helicopter crash. I was like, was that her fault? Did she make the helicopter crash? Like, what
like
was,
yeah, I couldn't figure that out either. It was kind of a it was an odd scenario.
yeah, a
I
little
have
bit.
to say I was a little bit I couldn't quite suspend disbelief on a lot of this. Like
Yeah.
uh like the C4.
What about it?
Like why did they have to blow up these water tanks?
It seemed to me like there'd be enough water. It
It
just doesn't seem like there'd be enough water to put the fire out. I mean, they showed it as being a ton of water.
like multiple really huge tanks, right?
Yeah, but would they be that big on a big building? I mean, maybe, but
And the explosion would have like some of the water would have evaporated, so they're
definitely.
losing water that way. And
Or
then
just
you have
flown
all
into
of
the
this
air from the
slap.
explosion. So they did talk about, so Paul Newman's the architect, right? So he knows exactly
That's
where
right.
to place the charges so that it like blows it up without having some of those effects, so that the water does stay in the building and go down. So they did address that at least they had to do it. You couldn't, like you and I couldn't go place C4 in this thing and make it blow up in the right way. So he did need to be there. That I don't know. Yeah, it was a little bit of a stretch. There was one guy that got like killed by the flood. That part I hadn't really expected. I didn't really understand why they were tying themselves up to be ready for the flood. I wasn't expecting anything like biblical from a couple of water tanks exploding, but it was like a big like the flood was just as dangerous as the fire. But this is a question I wrote down. Have you ever been on a helicopter?
I have never been in a helicopter.
I haven't either. It's been on my bucket list. It's something I'd like
Hmm.
to try one time. I probably will die in a crash if I ever do it, but it's something I would
No.
I'd like to fly over the Grand Canyon or something like that. My dad got to fly on a helicopter once in the army, and they flew over the Meteor crater out in Arizona. So
Mm.
he used to talk. I think that's about the only time he was ever on a helicopter.
Good friend of mine was telling me that when he was in Hawaii, he went had booked like a helicopter tour that'll take you out
Sure.
over the volcanoes,
Yeah, that's
and see
cool.
some of the lava flow. I think that would be a really cool way to go.
When I was there, the volcanoes weren't erupting.
Mm.
I was there at a quiet moment, which was kind of a bummer because I've still never seen lava. I saw smoke coming out of Vesuvius, and there was a little bit of smoke coming out of Kilauea or whichever one it is that's usually active. But I've still never actually seen lava, which is on my bucket. That and the helicopter are on my
Mm.
bucket list for like
Mm.
silly things I still want to do. So we talked about how this movie's a bit like Titanic, right? But do you know what movie? And I think you probably thought of this too, but you know what movie just is born from the Towering Inferno? And it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Die Hard.
Die Hard. Die Hard is all over this picture. Like when you watch this, you're like, oh, they got half of Die Hard comes from this movie. The party looks the same. The elevator shafts and things like. There's all these scenes that are the explosions coming out the windows. It looks like Die Hard. Considering that's one of my favorite movies, I really kind of felt like they ripped off Towering Inferno to some extent.
A little bit.
That gives me a little bit of respect for this one. If it was
I
part
mean,
of
there was no Hans Gruber.
no, there's no villain. No, I mean the two main actors in that, Alan Rickman and Bruce Willis, are just terrific and perfectly cast. They're just awesome in that movie. That's what makes it. That's what elevates it. There is kind of an intensity. The pace of it is really good. It's a well put together movie. But those two actors are just great. Yeah, they really. There's even that scene where there's a model. Like there's a room where they walk into a room in this movie, Towering Inferno, and there's
Mhm.
models, and it looks just like that scene in Die Hard where he walks in and he's got that big model and
Oh,
he
of the
quotes.
plot of Nakatomi Plaza,
It's
Nakatomi
a no,
Plaza.
it's the project in Indonesia. He's got like the
Oh, okay.
bridge that they're building, and he's like, when Alexander wept when he saw the breadth of his domain, for there were no more worlds to conquer. That's we could talk about Die Hard some other day. It's the Christmas season, so it's on my mind a lot. You live
I
in the Bay
do.
Area,
I
right?
do. I
So,
do.
what do you think of the idea of building a 135 story building in San Francisco?
I could see somebody wanting to do it,
I could see somebody
frankly.
wanting to do it, but my goodness, it's a terrible place to build a huge building. This didn't even involve an earthquake. Yeah.
No, it didn't. And for that reason alone, like I imagine this was something they didn't
They didn't
seemingly
even
address
address
in
it.
the film.
Yeah, they didn't address it.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure behind the scenes they must have, if they're going to build a skyscraper like this, it's one of those ones that sways when an earthquake happens. What is the tallest building in San Francisco right now? Is it the Transamerica?
Salesforce Tower,
Okay, how big is that?
1,070 feet.
1,007. That's a big building. That's got to be 80 stories or so, right?
Yeah,
Something
right.
like that. But
Yeah.
okay, I mean, that's a big
Um,
building.
18th tallest building in the US, second
Okay.
tallest in California.
It is the tallest in California?
Second tallest in
Okay.
California.
I think there's a really big one in LA, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think that's the largest one.
Okay, so it is possible to build a skyscraper in San Francisco. That part's not really the problem. It's what happens because of I think it's Richard Chamberlain's fault, right? He decides to sort of undercut the electrical systems, and so that causes the fire in the building.
That's right. And well, that and leaving a whole bunch of like turpentine or whatever the cleaning materials were
Whatever,
that
all
they
that
left.
crap. Why would you have that? That's just like
Like, why is there this room where
there's
they set all of this highly flammable, combustible material right next to an electrical outlet?
it reminds me of there's a Kumail Nanjiani bit where he's talking about in video games when you're shooting at the bad guys and there's always like explosive barrels near them that kill ten bad guys all at once. He was like, hey boss, I don't know if we need to have these explosive barrels. They seem to be doing more harm than good. Like why do we have these in
Why
our
are these here?
base? One of the things to talk about this movie, I think, is that this, like we said, this is a blockbuster film, right? But have you ever heard anybody talk about this movie?
No, not really.
I feel like this movie has like no cultural memory whatsoever. Like people do not talk about this film at all. And from watching it, I haven't really made my decision about like the overall vote I'm going to do, but this is a good movie. I mean, this is a compelling film. I enjoyed watching it. Something about it makes it so it just doesn't seem to last for some reason. It's just not, it looks very 70s, right? It's
Hmm.
got, I
It
mean,
does.
John Williams did the score. Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah.
I didn't know he
I,
was around that long, but I guess so. This is right before Jaws. So that does make sense, I guess, that he would have been working in other things. But man, that guy just the movies he works on are the biggest movies that exist. Maybe it is Jaws. Maybe it's because Jaws was the first really big summer blockbuster movie, and that's the next year. So I feel like films changed a lot in that next year, and maybe that's why this one doesn't have the memory
it
that it
doesn't stand
otherwise.
out as much.
It
Yeah.
doesn't stand out as
Yeah.
much. And also, I have to say, the other thing that hangs over this movie, it's not just the Titanic, is when you're watching this, is 9/11 is like
Mm.
in your mind the entire time. I could see a lot of people just being like, I don't want to watch that movie. Like after that
Mm.
happened, it's just kind of on your mind a little bit the whole time. People being trapped in a burning building. I have to say, I thought about this. No one has ever done a film about that. Like there's the
I.
Flight 93 movie, but no
Mhm.
one's ever done like an epic, just September 11th, like the whole thing, like show what happened that day. And it's strange because they've done movies about the Holocaust, right? But for some reason, September 11th is still untouchable. What more dramatic story could there possibly be? But I actually kind of feel like people wouldn't go watch it because it's just too much.
I mean, and I don't think that those Holocaust films came out that soon. I mean,
Well, so
we're still
Schindler's
like
List,
25, 24 years out of 9/11 versus
that's
80,
true. That's true. Oh, I was comparing it to
right?
Towering Inferno. Yeah, you're right. So we're talking about Schindler's List is, let's see, 48 years after the Holocaust. So
Yeah.
that's a long time. So that'd be like,
Yeah.
could you write about something super traumatic that happened in like the 70s? Maybe, I suppose so. It's funny, I think they kind of avoid the Lincoln assassination too in film. There are a couple of things in history that we just kind of don't touch as Americans, despite it being a great story. I mean, obviously I didn't actually see Lincoln, but I don't think is the assassination portrayed dramatically in that film.
Relatively, yeah.
Oh,
And
it is. Okay.
there was just another one too about the
Well, there's the one about Garfield, right? Is that
yeah, yeah.
I watched that. That was great, but nobody cares. Nobody remembers the assassination of James Garfield. Like That's a little bit of a footnote to some extent, sadly for the poor guy. But I just was thinking about that while watching this. Was it's interesting that people have shown the restraint to not make a film about 9/11.
But I do see the parallels though there, and you had you had a couple people jumping out of the windows,
Oh yeah,
in this
yeah.
in
People
Towering
on fire
Inferno.
falling out of the building, like things like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's in there. Like yeah, I
And the
definitely had.
firefighters,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, this was almost like this is what it would be like if a building, and that's basically what happened. That's why September 11th was the disaster that it was because of that situation. People just couldn't get out. But I mean, this is a little different. I mean, that was almost like an act of war, right? You got like a bomb hitting the building essentially.
Well, I
It's a
mean, it
little
was an
different.
act. It was right. Yeah,
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 I mean, it's
yeah.
yeah, definitely it's a terrorist attack anyway, so it's a little bit different. It's a deliberate act to try to bring the building down. But anyway, let's talk about literally anything else because I don't think anybody wants to listen to us talk about September 11th either. So
Who was the secretary in that? The
this
actress that played the was there with Duval or with Wagner's character.
she is a soap opera actress basically. I looked her up.
Okay, okay,
I thought she was very beautiful, and I was like, what is this woman? Was she ever in anything else? I think she's basically a TV actress. I can't remember her
okay,
name. But
okay.
when I looked at her IMDb, it was all soap opera stuff. So I don't think she was in a lot of films, but she made an impression on me actually. She has a small part, but I was thinking, oh, why haven't I ever? Was this somebody that was more famous when she was younger or something? Because she's like a very attractive older lady. I was just kind of thinking, I know she must have been in a lot because she has a good screen presence.
The other thing that I noted was just the interactions with McQueen as this firefighter,
Hmm.
right, or fire chief. I guess battalion chief. I'm not exactly.
I don't,
It was
I don't
unclear.
remember. Yeah.
But then his interactions with Newman's character as this architect. So in the 70s, were there a lot of like, well, okay, so we're the guys who are having to go out like police and firemen and things like that versus kind of the academic.
It's in
Yeah,
Jaws. It's one of the conflicts in Jaws, the blue collar guy versus the academic. I think that's pretty much, I think that's been around. That conflict has been around for a long time. Like townies versus the college kids, back in the Middle
sure.
Ages and things like that. I,
Okay.
I
Okay.
think there's a conflict there that's it's enduring. That's a perennial thing. So yeah, that conflict was interesting to me. Although they didn't seem super different, right? They were both like physically capable and intelligent. Neither of them was like a dumb guy. Obviously, Steve McQueen's portrayed as being like a really smart guy who knows his job, and so is Paul Newman.
Only one who could possibly rig up the C4 explosion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
Right.
think it's
Right.
it's it's interesting. It's a lot like what we said about Faye Dunaway and William Holden. They sort of learned to hate each other on this picture. Apparently, she was late all the time. She was a big part of new Hollywood, and he's very old Hollywood. And they
Mm,
had like a big blow up because she kept showing up late to the set, and
mm.
they had like a big fight. And then they played off that dynamic between them in Network, and I thought it was great. I've never seen a
Yes.
romantic relationship with more hatred depicted in it, like mutual resentment. And I thought that was just done really well. And I think that the Newman and McQueen relationship in this, they had a lot of problems getting those guys to work together in a film. And it was mostly from McQueen. He was mostly feeling a little threatened by Newman, from what I could tell. They had to do a thing when the film opens, they did a thing called a diagonal billing, which is a trick they use where if they have two actors like this, one guy gets the billing on the left of the screen, if you can picture what I'm saying. Like, and I believe
Yeah.
it was Steve McQueen's on the left. Paul Newman's on the right, but he's higher than Steve McQueen. So what that means is from reading left to right, Steve McQueen's got top billing, but you see Newman's name above McQueen's, and so he could argue he has top billing. So it was a compromise they had to do in the title card to get these two macho jerks to work together in this film. I thought that was actually a pretty clever solution to that issue, to that problem. But McQueen went through and counted the number of lines in the movie, in the
Oh,
script,
really?
and found that Paul Newman had 15 more lines and had a temper tantrum about that, and they had to deal with that. There was a lot of that kind of thing going on. It's funny how that chemistry is reflected in the dynamic between the two characters, right? Like the two characters are kind of the same thing. They're sort of beefing with each other to be top dog, and I think it kind of worked actually. I thought it was pretty effective. I mean, those guys are great. I love both of
Yeah.
those actors. They both have a similar look in that they're very weathered. right?
Mm,
Like they don't
mhm.
look like beautiful, they don't look like George Clooney. They've got these wrinkles on their eyes and their foreheads and stuff, and it makes me feel good about being like an older white guy. Like you kind of like, oh, I could still be theoretically handsome if these guys can do it. It's kind of nice. I've gotten to respect Robert Redford too. I just kind of like those three guys. They're in the same area in my brain when I think about them. Steve McQueen's awesome in Magnificent Seven.
I haven't seen a whole lot of work by Steve
I
McQueen, so
haven't either. Yeah.
I think that I was maybe more drawn to Paul Newman, or maybe it's just the timing of when
Have
Queen's
you
films were coming out.
have you seen The Great Escape?
Probably
I
at some
think I
point.
think to
Yeah,
me, now I haven't seen Bullet, which is his most famous picture in terms of his career, but he's great. In The Great Escape, he's really charismatic and fun, like just a great movie actor in that film. So I'd recommend that if you want to see something with McQueen. He didn't live much longer after this. He died in 1980. So
yeah,
he's
interesting.
kind of getting to the end of his career, not naturally, of course. Whereas Paul Newman, I think, he lived into the 2000s, didn't he? I can't
Uh,
remember when he died. I might be mixing it up with Redford. Robert Redford obviously just died, but Paul Newman lived to
right.
be like an older actor as well. And I like him. He's good. He's in a lot of things where I like him a lot. So one thing that we have not talked about, and I guess this is a fictional event, so it doesn't matter that it's in slightly bad taste, but we have decided to drink something today. Bill, what were we inspired to drink by the Towering Inferno?
This amazing cinnamon beverage. I got the cinnamon whiskey version. I think the one that you got is a little bit different, right? So Fireball, aptly named, I suppose,
I
for its
suppose.
cinnamon taste. You remember the atomic fireballs?
I was just about to say that. Yes, of course I do. I remember when I was a kid, I would get one. They were cheap. They were like 10 cents, but I would get
Yeah,
one and I
yeah.
would work on it for like a day.
Hmm.
I couldn't just put it in my mouth when I was a kid. I couldn't, it was too spicy
You
for me.
you had to take it out.
I
Yeah,
had to take it
yeah,
out. So I would
yeah.
kind of like lick it or put it in a little bit and get
Hmm.
some of it and I would work on it.
Hmm.
And I remember I was very happy when I got to the center of it and I liked the way the center of it tasted. Like it was not spicy anymore. So it was like an accomplishment when I was 7 years old to get through an atomic fireball. But yeah, it
It was a
basically just
task. Yeah,
it was a task. Yeah, it was basically the cinnamon challenge back in the day when we didn't have the internet. So we would just
that's right.
try to
Couldn't
get through an atomic fireball. But what I have here is I have a beverage that you can buy everywhere, even places that don't sell liquor. I would say it's like a cinnamon schnapps. I don't actually know technically what it is, but it's about 12%. It's not whiskey, it's more like wine level or a liqueur or something like that. So that's why they can sell it outside of liquor stores. For example, Virginia, where only hard liquor can only be sold at liquor stores. I don't know. I think California is looser, right, about that kind of thing.
we're pretty loose about those sorts of things. Yeah,
Yeah, New
we're
Mexico, you could just buy
go
everything
into a gas
everywhere.
station.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
go to a gas station and buy whiskey, which always seemed, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it just seems like an awful lot of whiskey being sold if you do things that way. But yeah, so yours is what? Yours actually says whiskey on the bottle. Mine does
So
not.
mine says cinnamon whiskey. Yours does not. Mine is 33% by volume, which is 66 proof,
Yeah.
considerably stronger than the stuff that you purchased. And
That
I
brings
got this
me
at a grocery store.
Okay, you got it at a grocery store, but you can in California. See, in Virginia,
That's
I
right.
couldn't. You could not buy cinnamon whiskey at a grocery store in Virginia, for example. I don't actually
Yeah.
know about in New York. I think in New York, it's only liquor stores for spirits as well. What makes me curious about this now is what does yours taste like?
Too bad we don't both have both of them so that we could do a taste
Right, to do a
comparison.
comparison, right? So, because I'm smelling it, it smells sugary and sweet, and it smells like a liqueur of cinnamon.
With this one, the
Oh,
the
it's
cinnamon is
good.
different.
Oh, it's surprisingly good. I thought this was going to be nasty. This is tasty. This tastes like chai. This tastes like a chai, like a something with the alcoholic content of a wine that tastes like a chai latte. This is delicious. I don't know how much of this I could drink, but this is quite good. So
You don't
that's
want to
fun.
drink a lot, I will say that. And with mine in particular, the
Mm.
cinnamon whiskey, which is significantly stronger. This is a beverage that gets a kind of a bad rap, in my opinion,
Well, tell me what you're
as a
tasting.
spirit.
I know you said it's a whiskey. Are you tasting a whiskey, but then there's a little bit of a cinnamon taste, or what is it like?
No, the cinnamon is definitely far more forward.
But what
It's
about the sugar? Does it taste sweet?
it is a little sweet, but I think that the cinnamon is far more prominent than the sweetness of it. So you're
Okay.
getting that cinnamon taste versus
Okay.
yeah, versus just sweet sugar.
Yeah, no, this tastes, I mean, if anybody wants to know what this tastes like, this tastes exactly like a chai latte from Starbucks. It's the same taste. And I really was not expecting that because I like that taste quite a bit, actually. So,
Versus the fireball, I would say is comparable to those atomic fireballs that we got when we were 10 years old.
so that taste is not entirely absent. and I'm kind of realizing that there's a little bit of a Venn diagram between an atomic fireball and a chai. Like there's a
Hmm.
similar I never really put two and two together there, but that's definitely what I'm getting. And I don't mind this at all. I could drink this. I was expecting this to be nasty, if I'm being honest, but this is kind of nice. I would drink this. I would have this around. It reminds me a little bit of amaretto
Oh yeah,
in
I
the
can see
sense of
that.
being in the sense not so much the taste but the sweetness and the level
Hmm.
of alcohol I think is very similar. Lots of calories. That's something you got to watch out for if you drink something like amaretto. I recommend people keep tabs on that because you could easily have a glass of 500 calories with something like amaretto if you're not careful. But anyway, I'm enjoying this. It's a little bit of a joke. Fireball, haha. Towering Inferno has got fire in it. I guess that's about the extent of this. There was alcohol in the movie though. There were quite a few people drinking because they're at a party.
They
So
were drinking, and the scene that comes to mind is one of the bartenders like somehow ends up with this like case of this old, and I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be champagne or if it was supposed to be
I think it was
a
just a
wine.
really good wine, but I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just the 29 is what they kept referring to it as. So
I bet it was champagne.
I,
That
I
makes
was thinking it was probably champagne.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes more sense to me, but I don't remember. At the time, I thought it was some kind of famous wine, but I feel like when you're talking about the 20s, you're probably talking about champagne for some reason. I don't know why, but that's just I think of Gatsby and champagne. Yeah, so this is good. I recommend this to people. I would not turn my nose at drinking this. So one thing I was doing, we talked about this before, like how would you try to survive? It's one of the compelling things about a disaster movie, right? Did
Mhm.
you come up with any solutions to this problem that the people in the film did not?
I mean, they should have gotten out of there far sooner than they did,
Obviously, but we're not doing
right?
that because we don't know how bad the situation is at first. You know, it's actually very similar to what happened with the Titanic. They didn't have enough lifeboats, but
Hmm.
people weren't even taking it seriously, and the lifeboats were leaving like half full at the beginning.
Right,
And that's one
right.
of the reasons why so many people died because they didn't even take it serious enough. So it's very similar. Again, it's there's another parallel here. I had a my teacher in third grade, Mr. Patton, his grandparents were on the Titanic. And
Huh.
he said they got woken up in the middle of the night and somebody was like, "We're doing a lifeboat drill. Just come out and get in the boats." And they just got their coats and they got in the lifeboats. And they were out there in the water when the boat sank. And that's when they realized it wasn't a drill, was when the boat started sinking. So
Oh wow.
they survived the Titanic and they were never even in any danger. They got right out immediately and just never even realized what was going on until it was all over,
They
pretty much.
they must have been evacuated pretty early,
They must have
relative.
been in the upper berths, right? Like they must have been in
Yeah,
first class, probably, I would think. But
probably.
yeah, I don't really know that. But that would seem like they don't go and wake up the Irish down in steerage to get them out early. So
No.
that's what we always say when we're flying, airlines here. And my family is always in the bottom tier. We're always in like tier 8 to get on the plane. And I'm like, yeah, it goes the live poultry, the Irish, and then us, like when you're getting on the plane. So
Oh, that's really bad.
yeah, I think I'm allowed to make anti-Irish jokes, right? Yeah, so
Sure.
the one thing I thought of in terms of getting out of the building, and I think this would have worked. I think this would have been the thing that would have been the best idea. They were taking the elevator, right? You're getting 12 people on the elevator at a time, and they
Hmm.
were like, this is going to take too long. Like the fire is
Hmm.
going to reach us by then. What they should have done is just gotten the people below the fire, not go all the way to the bottom of the building in the elevator, but just take people down to like 60, drop them
Hmm.
off, and just increase the number of people that you could get out on the elevator by cutting the time. Let the people walk down the stairs
Right.
from that point. That would have cut your time like in half, I think.
And they could have gotten more people out that way,
And they could have gotten a
you're
lot
saying.
more people out that way. And I don't know enough about the situation with the what was it called? Like a breech loader? Not breech loader.
I kind of thought that was kind of like a service elevator, was my impression of that.
Oh,
Was that
which one? The one
the
there was
breach?
the interior one that they used that they were putting 12 people on at a time, and then there was the
Right,
exterior scenic elevator, which
right.
was a pretty great setup because it ended up being they had to rescue that elevator from the outside of the building, which was a pretty good bit actually. I thought that was a pretty cool idea to set that up that way.
It was.
Pretty harsh what happened. Like there was the poor lady that like saved the children, and then she just falls out of the scenic elevator and dies. And she doesn't just die; she dies like King Kong. Like there's a King Kong callback because she falls down the building and hits and like bounces off the building and goes down the same way King Kong does. And I was thinking, what did this poor what did this poor lady do? She kind of dies off screen and it's kind of brutal. And there's the other lady that jumps out of the building on fire. And what
Right.
they did is they actually showed the fire goes out while she's falling. And I was thinking, like, what the special effects on that, man? Like, That couldn't have been an easy thing to do in the 70s in a film. You know, you could do that today with CGI, obviously,
Sure.
but that was pretty impressive. But I
How do you
really,
think they did that? How do you think they, I mean, do you think that they just had a model that they did that with?
yeah, maybe they actually dropped something off of a build. I don't know. It wouldn't have dropped it off a building, but yeah, I don't really know. I mean, maybe just something small you're dropping that puts itself out while it's
Scale.
falling, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. Even now, looking back, I don't know how they did that, but I did almost. It was sad that that woman died, but when she falls and hits the building like King Kong, I definitely had a moment of like my disbelief was not suspended. I giggled a little bit when I saw that because that was a little ridiculous, but. I felt really bad that they did that to Fred Astaire. Like that he had like this love story and then they just killed her, you know,
Right.
kind of brutally. Similar to, did you see the Jurassic World, the first Jurassic World movie?
Hmm. Hmm.
There's the one woman who's kind of annoying because she talks on her phone too much and she gets savagely murdered by pterosaurs. And I watched that. And it was a lot of people commented. They're like, "What did that woman do to deserve that brutal of a death?" Like it stands
Stay
out.
off your phones. Stay
Well,
off your
yeah,
phone. Yeah. Yeah.
touche, touche. But I mean, that was kind of what it was kind of like. I feel like they killed the lawyer pretty brutally in the first Jurassic Park, which I think, you know, in wider society, probably everybody was like, yeah, you know, that's great, kill a lawyer. But the poor lady on her cell phone too much. I'm not sure that society is quite as brutally murderous towards people like that. I thought that one stood out. And this one, this lady bouncing off the side of the building while she went down was a bit much for me.
Yeah. Especially after saving the kids.
Especially after saving the kids, and she's like Fred Astaire's love interest, and she just bites it like for you
Right.
know that was
Right.
harsh.
Earlier, we were talking about McQueen versus Newman. A little bit more background with those two. McQueen's career was relatively short. Like
It
he
was.
was only doing stuff from like the 50s until 1980,
I think it's more like
right?
1960. I think it's about 1960 until not long after this. I don't know if he did any big movies at the end of his career either. I think he's about 15 years of being a big movie star.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like a very big movie star. Like definitely somebody who people went to see in films. Kind of fizzled out. I think his marriage was especially hard on him, if I remember sort of the backstory of his life.
Well, it looks like he was married 3 times.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
It,
think he I don't remember. I'd be talking
yeah.
out of my you know what if I gave a lot of facts, but I do think there was a bad divorce,
Mm,
and then some of the films he was choosing were bad because of the situation with his wife, and his
mm,
personal life kind of took over his film career at a certain point, especially I
mm.
think in the 70s. So he was you can see when you look at him, he was living pretty hard too. Like he looks a lot older than he actually was when you see the I mean, I think people just
He
age
was
so much worse back
Yeah, he
then.
was only 50 years old.
Yeah.
That's us.
When he died or in this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
So
No, and
he's
he died.
younger than us in this movie, and he looks 20 years older than I feel like I do. Or maybe
Yeah,
I'm delusional, but he looks a lot older. So
I would agree.
that woman, the one that you were talking about, the one from the soap operas,
Oh,
um, I looked that up because I was like, oh, this is like a very, very like pretty older woman. She's like 35. People looked so old back then. Like they aged so much. I think it's the smoking would be the
huh.
number one thing that I think made people look a lot older. Like I don't know what else would have changed. Maybe we're just healthier in general. Maybe people exercise more now as you get older. Like, I don't think Steve McQueen was out there like running and taking care of his health and stuff. I think he was just living until it was over. But one interesting thing that I should have mentioned. You're talking about the compromise again between Paul Newman and Steve McQueen. They actually had a bidding war over the rights to this
Hmm.
film between, I think it was, well, Warner Brothers is the one that won the bidding war, but it was
Hmm.
also 20th Century Fox and I think Columbia were all involved in the bidding war. And what ended up happening was Warner Brothers won the rights to the book, so they were going to make the film. But Fox, I think it was, started putting together an almost identical book, and they were going to do a film at the same time. And instead of doing the thing like they did with Deep Impact and Armageddon and just releasing both movies and cannibalizing each other's audiences, the
Hmm.
studios actually made a compromise to work together on this film and combine
That's
their
right.
resources, which is
Yep.
like I think that's great. That's another great compromise. Like really probably gave this movie the financial resources to make it happen. I mean, and a lot of the actors were getting points on it. This must have been an extremely complicated business arrangement to get this movie made. And I think that's pretty cool. I looked it up to see whether that was something that happens in general. And there's a couple of other properties that are like that. You know the movie Alive with the guys in the plane? It's like the Argentinian football players and they
Oh, yeah, yeah.
crash in the
Okay.
Andes, and that one was
Hmm.
made as a combination of two studios. The
Hmm.
Hellboy series is
Hmm.
multiple I don't, and I can't remember which studio. And then Friday the 13th was a combination between somebody and New Line, which I think was the original company that had that. So this it does happen, and it can be kind of successful sometimes. There's a few of these big studio collaborations. I don't know if it happens much anymore, but I thought that was sort of an interesting footnote to the making of the movie.
14 million for a film budget today does
Is
not seem
nothing.
like very
Is
much.
nothing. You can't make a movie for $14 million. I mean, me and you could get a camera and go make a movie like a guerrilla movie for $14 million, but that's not, nope. You can't make a movie for that price today. And this was a huge budget at the time,
Right.
right? I
Right.
mean, I don't know what 14 million is in 1974 dollars. I'm sure it's a lot more. Actually, it's probably about right for a mid-budget movie. That's probably about 80 million today. So
Yeah.
that's probably about right. That's probably about what it would cost. So I guess it's not that much. I guess it's not that different, but
One thing I thought was interesting, there was this other film, The Poseidon Adventure,
uh-huh.
who
Yeah.
was written by the same person that would end up writing the script for this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But I've never heard of this.
Oh,
And I
I've
was
heard of it.
looking it up.
Yeah, I've
You've
heard
heard
of
of
it.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I have. It's a famous disaster picture. It's basically they're on a submarine and the submarine fails and everybody has to escape the submarine. It's a disaster movie where you got to get out of a submarine. I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of the film. I actually
Yeah.
thought that that came after this and that was that I think was you could kind of say that's the first of the big disaster pictures because this was a big genre in the 70s. There was Poseidon Adventure and Towering Inferno, and then there were a couple of airport movies. There was a really big budget earthquake movie that was similar to this. I don't think that one has it left any impression on people today, but this was a big thing in the 1970s. And it's kind of a genre that didn't last very long. Like it didn't, sorry, we still do disaster pictures. That's not the right way to put it. But they don't have a lot of staying power. These are not rewatchable films that people love and go back to today. This is kind of a dead group of movies in a lot of
Hmm.
ways.
Yeah, I
I've
can see
heard of
that.
I've heard of Towering Inferno and I've heard of Poseidon Adventure, but I had never seen them. They weren't movies that my dad showed to me, for example, because
Would you
there's
go back and rewatch this movie?
I don't know if this one has a lot. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was an effective film, but I one of the things I noticed is that this has got a good it's got a ticking clock. It's tense. The tension builds up, the action builds up. You care about the people in it. But even with that said, this is a 2.5 hour movie, and the
Hmm.
pace is just off for the way you make movies today.
Hmm.
I have said
Hmm.
this many, many times on the podcast, and I firmly believe if your film goes over 2 hours, you got to cut something. If it's under 2 hours, add something. If it's over 2 hours, cut something. You just can't get the pacing right on a film. And people that's people's attention span for watching a movie. And I think you need to fit your movie into 2 hours, more or less. You can go over by 5 or 6 minutes, but nothing like this. 2.5 hours is too much. And people don't want to watch a movie more. You're not going to watch a movie more than once if it's that long. I don't think.
Right.
Maybe there's some counterexample. I mean, Titanic is pretty long, and I've seen that multiple times, but that one is just a better film. It's more taut. There's something going on through the whole movie. It's just a better film. It's a
I
similar
mean,
film.
you have a pretty amazing storyteller on that film.
You have a pretty amazing storyteller, exactly, and filmmaker, and just everything about it. His attention to detail is phenomenal. The historical time period of the film is important to what makes it interesting to watch, right? Like you're getting a snapshot of what was 1912 like. This
Right.
film would be really interesting. And I don't know if anybody's ever done this, right? But you could remake this movie and still have it take place in 1974 and turn it into a period picture.
Hmm.
Like focus on the details that make it 1974, in other words. Turn it into a strength instead of a weakness. When you watch this, it's dated. It
Hmm.
just seems dated when you watch it. It seems very 1970s and not in the cool way that a lot of 1970s stuff does, right? This is a very old-fashioned type of film. The movies like Jaws and Rocky and all those things that we really love today that are sort of that French New Wave style of putting together films and the realism and things that are in them. This movie doesn't have any of those. It's got a great cast. It's got a good script. It works, but it's not as good as those movies. It's just not it's a different time period. It's William Holden,
Hmm.
the time period where William Holden was a big actor. It's an old Hollywood type of film that's got some realism and there is some attention to detail and things like that that wouldn't have been in a movie from the 50s, but it's not quite doing those 70s things that I think we all love. So I don't know if it works on that same level. Did anything surprise you in this one?
Not particularly. I was
Okay.
honest. I have to say I was a little underwhelmed with this
Little
movie.
underwhelmed. Okay, yeah. I thought this
Um,
one was pretty much what was on the tin, right? Like you
mhm.
knew what you were going to get in this movie, and you got it.
And it was kind
Yeah.
of disappointing because you did have like you had McQueen, you had Newman, you
Hmm.
had Dunaway, and we had OJ,
Yeah,
right?
right.
With the exception of Newman's character and McQueen's character, like all these other actors got very little time.
They didn't really have much to do. I mean, Robert Vaughn's just kind of in there for no
Right,
reason.
right.
You didn't really need him. There's maybe, I mean, William Holden has a good part. I was surprised actually that he lived. I thought for sure that
Okay,
character would bite it. That was a little bit.
yeah.
To be honest, the fate of Fred Astaire's girlfriend was the most surprising thing in the movie. I thought she was out of danger after the escape down the stairwell and everything with the kids, and then they just kind of killed her off screen. That kind of caught me off guard a little bit. The other thing that surprised me, I'll make a comment on this, is I didn't know that stop, drop, and roll hadn't been invented. I mean, the number of times
Hmm.
that you're watching somebody catch on fire and run around in circles, making it worse for themselves, and nobody trying to deal with that. I guess stop, drop, and roll must have been invented in the 80s, like when we were kids, because we all knew that. That was a thing.
That was like in school we were
Yeah,
being told you
totally.
do this. Yeah,
Yeah, totally. Now, I have to say, were I on fire, I don't know if I would have the presence of mind to do that, but
to do that.
having a
But
nice
somebody
little
around you would. Somebody
somebody
around
around me might
you.
remind me, right? Like somebody
Yeah.
would remember that and know what to do. Yeah. I think it would, and that would probably save quite a few lives. It's getting burned like that, man, that is one of the worst things that can happen to a human being. That's a really, really bad injury. And it's a really bad injury. It's the kind of thing where if it happens to you, you kind of would rather just die because you could linger for a long time in terrible, terrible. Anyway, not fun to talk about. But every time I saw one of those people on fire, I was just like, oh man, like that's not something that you want to have happen. Yeah, so let's get to voting on this one. I think I know where you're landing.
I think you're probably right.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go ahead and just say I don't think this had like we've said, a lot of lasting power. I thought it was fine. I thought, there were some interesting elements to it, but overall it didn't really stick with me the way a lot of other films do.
Yeah, I don't think it has a lot of rewatch value, and I don't think very, like I said, it's very dated. It seems like something from a long time ago. But what do you think of disaster films? Are you a disaster film guy? Do you like
I
those?
can get behind a disaster film, sure, but it has to be done well. Like I
It
thought
does have to
Titanic
be.
was done well, right?
Titanic, yeah, I mean Titanic is people like to hate on that movie to some extent, basically because it's just gigantically successful. But that's a impeccably done film. There's really no. I mean, maybe I don't really love Leonardo DiCaprio, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't like him in much of anything, even though he's been around so long. You kind of have to respect him. But overall, his films are not my favorites. But the disaster picture can be very good or it can be very bad and cheesy. This one is pretty it's better than a lot of the disaster films I've seen. Part of creating the genre. So in that sense I would give it a little bit of appreciation, but overall, it's more of a historical interest, right? You want to be like, "Oh, there was once a genre called the disaster film and Towering Inferno was an important part of it." So in that sense it's historically important, but yeah, I don't think this one is that's got to be on your short list to watch. So I guess I'm
Yeah.
voting against it as well. I think we're going to be unanimous in voting against Towering Inferno. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I think we're ready to sign off. This is Dave McArthur saying goodbye. Thanks everybody for joining us in this Towering Inferno of a podcast.
With Bill Hodges. Thanks again for listening.
Peace out, everybody.